Uh, how are you and welcome back? Um, so there's this aspect of people wanting to be good and all that, and most of the time we try to be good by doing things to other people, and that means that we end up doing stuff, and that process we might summarize it as being or assuming the role of someone who is there for everyone else. And the question is, when you're there for people, who will always be there for you at your time of need? And there's this concept of the white knight, and we unknowingly engage in helping people or giving too much to a point that we individually lack to give, or we get exhausted with giving. And so here comes the concept of the giver, the carer, and the fixer. So you want to play the roles of the giver, the carer, and the fixer at the same time. And it's not bad because we learn that most of these things they develop at childhood. Because during childhood we become dependent on our caregivers or parents to provide for our physical and emotional needs. We automatically become inclined to seeking validation when going through a wide range of emotions, and there's supportive love to help us process and regulate those needs. And we need them to see us, hear us, and acknowledge us for who we truly are in order for us to learn how to trust ourselves and have a good sense of our own self worth. Now, through this mirroring process, we are able to develop a healthy relationship and self regard. Given that most of our parents were exposed to trauma in their childhood and were not properly taught the right skills to deal with and heal from it, the mirroring fails, and this trauma is then transferred down through generations and to a child who is constantly pursuing love and validation in almost all the peripheral relationships in their lives. Now, there is a high possibility for the child to become a rescuer, a giver, the carer, the fixer, a love addict, and eventually maybe a codependent. Now, a codependent is somehow complex because this is someone who relies on people being down and helping them in that process to feel like they're uh, wholly living. What I mean is, if they don't get an opportunity to help somebody who is vulnerable, they don't feel like they're living their life in a good way. So they will always depend on having partners or maybe someone who needs a rescue in one way or another. So this concept of being a rescuer on something. Now, rescuers belong to a profile of individuals known as white knights. That one is, in psychological terms, they're known as the white knight. So that profile as a whole is called the white knight syndrome. And this was a term coined by a psychology professor uh, at the University of California, Berkeley. That one, if I remember the names well, it's Mary and Marilyn, and they explain the white knight syndrome as something that encompasses all individuals who often establish relationship with people who, in their eyes, seem vulnerable or damaged. Their goal is to rescue and fix these individuals. What these people are looking for with such a rescuing and restorative attitude is to give meaning to their own lives. Hence, Marilyn and um Mary argues that there are specific characteristics that will distinguish someone as um, a white knight, someone with a white knight syndrome. And those characteristics include people with a past of abandonment or abuse, or those who lost a caregiver. The second one is these people are very sensitive and emotionally vulnerable and need to feel useful. The third category of characteristic is they are very critical of themselves but devalue others for a very clear reason, a need to justify helping those who are weak. And finally, in their last characteristic is that these people don't usually rejoice in safe, brave, or risky attitudes and others' accomplishments. They rather help those who are insecure and bordering on failure, sadness, and fear. So they're always looking for people who are like at a vulnerable point in their life so that they can help and also get the opportunity to feel like they are useful in life. Now, this is the opposite of the. We always talk about the Black Knight in the movies and the series and all that, where the Black Knights always emerge the most. We call them the most brave ones. But the White Knights don't like being in a situation where they are seen as brave. But the Dark Knights are always brave in a way. They always take risk and they have no fear. But when you go back and look at the White Knights, they thrive in places where there is failure, where there is sadness, and where there is fear, and they don't like they like they don't like uh, situations that feel safe because if everyone is feeling safe, they want to be able to chip in and help and feel like they are useful or accomplished. And now, people with the need to fix others are like those white knights that travel from kingdom to kingdom, rescuing and helping anyone they come across, even if they don't need it or ask for it. Hence, most of the time, their acts are futile because their behavior can their behavior can feel a little bit intrusive and annoying. If you yourself is a fixer or you rise to the level of a codependent, and maybe we can now sit back somewhere and call you a giver, a fixer, or a carer, then you will be familiar with many of some of the things I'll list down or I'll be talking about because most of these characteristics are negative in a way because you find yourself in most situations being on the giving end, and somehow human beings are made in an interesting way. Some might feel like it is their right for them um, to be given or to be taken care of. So then, how do you identify whether you are whether you have uh, all this white knight syndrome that I'm talking about today? So one way of knowing that you have one way of identifying a fixer or a codependent or a rescuer, whatever name you want to like describe it with, the first biggest identifier is that this kind of people are people pleasers. They always put up the nice mask. They have poor boundaries, and this is their biggest Achilles heel because people always look at them and can always take advantage of their kindness. They have great difficulty saying no to people because they are afraid they might upset the other person or they might be perceived as bad. So oftentimes they find themselves doing things they don't really like, and then they end up feeling self-loath, confusion, and anger. Now remember when we were talking about this thing originating from childhood, we were always seeking for approval from our parents. Now these are people due to the trauma that the parents went through, and this is true to many of us because we never got reciprocation of the attention maybe or the approval that we needed. And now you've grown up, and the only way for you to be able to get that approval and not look bad is by doing what? Starting to please everyone else. So, as I said, the biggest number one identifier is the people pleaser attitude. Then, this kind of people are also socially anxious. They are always concerned with what other people think of them, even though they appear strong, confident, and as if they have it all together. Inside, they suffer from low self esteem and they continuously compare themselves to others. This constant turning, tuning into other people's perception of them makes them very sensitive to one criticism and social feedback. They're inclined to take things personally and to get easily insulted. So when they're around others, they're always very careful with how they talk, what they say to people, how they interact with others, because they don't want to end up getting criticized or getting bad feedback from uh, other people, because this will eventually have an effect on how they feel about themselves and make them feel like less of themselves or insulted in one way or another. So I realized that with this kind of social anxiety, it's difficult for them to be in an environment that requires them not to be of help in a way. So, as you had been mentioning before, given that they like fixing things or people or other people's businesses, it means that their third most common identifier is people fixer. They're naturally very empathetic and they have the tendency to take other people's problems as their own. They feel responsible for other people's emotions and they frequently feel the obligation to save the other person. They also begin giving advice and in helping others learn their life lessons. It's really not easy for these people because sometimes they go around telling people what to do or how to overcome a certain situation. Yet, if you look at them, sometimes it is not easy for them to also get themselves out of a fix. So they fix others, yet they forget about fixing themselves. Um, and the fourth major identifier is having difficulty making decisions. Now, due to their constant seeking for external approval and validation, fixers are often lost when it comes to decision making. It's difficult for them to make decisions. In order to do so, taking the opinions of others first is crucial for them. Remember, every decision they make, they have to seek approval of other people. They want to know, like, what do you think about um, this that I want to do? Or what's your opinion on my choice of suit for this occasion, my choice of dress for this occasion? If you disapprove, they will not be able to decide whether they want it or not. So they entirely depend on other people's perception of them and opinion on things for them to be able to like do something, and that makes it so difficult for them to come up with a solid decision of their own. And moving on, they are always excessive in giving. They don't appear as very generous, but because they have the tendency to extensively give from a place of lack and emptiness, they end up feeling drained, exhausted, and very resentful for all the giving. Because now, for instance, like I said, it's not necessary that they only give material things. These people give emotionally, they give socially. They always be there when you need them. When you're going through an emotional turmoil or problem, you can always count on them to offer you a shoulder to cry on. So you'll find that they'll be running around fixing others, but fixing others and giving, but they end up getting drained. And because this, everyone thinks that they're okay. So people let them deal with their situations on their own unless they open up and speak to someone. They always suffer in silence. So this makes it so hard for them, and they become resentful of that act of giving and um, fixing people and caring for others. The next identifier is self betrayal. They're so invested in their external relationships and the fact that they want to be liked by others that they have forgotten how to turn inside to connect with their own self. They have a great difficulty connecting with their own intuition and their emotions, and they tend to especially hide their pleasant ones under the carpet. So they won't openly speak about the unpleasant parts of their daily or um, their routines to people. They'd rather keep it under wraps because how else will people like them when they keep on talking about their tribulations? They don't want to be seen as people who are complaining because they want to make everyone else happy. When they go through something very difficult emotionally, they lack self-soothing mechanisms, and they tend to beat up themselves for not being able to manage things in an idealistic, perfect way. Healing from um, this fixer mentality or giver mentality or care mentality is not an easy job, but it's possible because it requires a lot of willpower and commitment, which is always the case when breaking out from any negative conditioning. Because these are things that you learn systematically, they get ingrained in you, and then they eventually become part of who you are. Now, how do we then unlearn and fix ourselves first? The first way is to begin listening more and carefully to your own intuitions and needs. Instead of rushing into doing things or making decisions, learn to take a moment to ask yourself, How do I feel about this? Tune into yourself and start respecting and validating your own emotions and experiences. If the emotions you are dealing with are heavy, try not to run away or find a way to distract yourself. Instead, take some time and some space to be with you, even if the feeling is really uncomfortable. This way, you learn how to be there for you and how to have your own back. Second way is to start setting boundaries and saying no to anything you don't feel like doing. This step is crucial for recovering from uh, the fixer mentality or the white knight syndrome because you learn how to set healthy boundaries, and this one takes time and practice, and you'll have many steps back, many setbacks during this process. But the key thing here is to be patient with yourself and be ready to disappoint or confuse many people around you. That means family, friends, and maybe acquaintances and all that. So, what I'm saying is, when you, the reason why I'm saying it's not easy, it's because most people might not understand that version of you anymore because these are people who have been used to a giver, and now you start turning into someone who has boundaries and you really care about them to a point that if someone goes against them, they get either reprimanded or you tell them immediately. And so people might get confused as to how you metamorphosed from the giver to now the person who puts themselves first. And the third way is to start being okay with the idea that other people might not agree with your decisions, opinions, or might not even like you. Think about it. It is impossible, very impossible for everyone to like you or agree with you. We always say that if everyone likes you or agree with you, there's something wrong about you or with you. There's no human being who is liked 100%, and there's no day people will agree with you 100% on everything. So people perceive the world and everyone included in it based on their own inner programming. So in the end of the day, there's nothing personal. It is just different tastes and preferences. Practice is not like it's not taking things personally. Practice not taking things personally. It will give you a very great sense of freedom and choose to surround yourself with people that give you a safe space to be you. Don't allow yourself to feel comfortable around people who just want you to be in a certain way. You should be able to be the genuine and original you without getting judged. So if you have people around you who don't like you the way you are, then I think it's a high time that you reconsider whether those are the people you want to be around. The fourth way of dealing with this is that you can stop trying to save or fix people. Tell yourself that you can never 100% do it to everyone. It's not your business. You need to realize that you are not responsible for how others feel, especially when they are not happy with themselves. You can always be there for them and hold space for them, but trying to take on their problem is an indication that you have some serious control issues, and that if you are not able to shift the way others feel, then you cannot stand being around them. People who tend to save or fix others always expect someone else to save or fix them, and they generally have very high expectations from the people close to them. Become more aware of these expectations so that you don't get disappointed in the end. Now, do you expect from others to understand you better than you understand yourself? Do you expect them to be super empathic when you are going through some difficulty? How do you set up people to disappoint you? Healing the core of your fixer mentality requires that you become very conscious of this control, being controlled dynamic in your relationships, in your life, in your social cycles, and in your emotional world. And then it requires to bravely start choosing against that what control or being controlled dynamic. So I know it's a little bit harder, but you can always start doing what? Start telling yourself that it's not your business to fix each and every person. Um, the fifth way of unlearning this fixer mentality is to start giving yourself first. Um, I remember when we were young, we were always told that if someone came and gave you sweets to give unto others, the best way to do it was to first take yours and then distribute the rest that is remaining. Now, with that small concept, you can learn to start giving to yourself first. Giving to others from a space of lack will only make you feel angry, frustrated, and resentful. Take care of yourself first, and then giving will come naturally and effortlessly without leaving a bitter aftertaste. You start seeing your relationships, your life, your social circles, and your emotional space becoming deeper, more sincere, and much more satisfying at the end of the day. So we cannot be complete. I know it's natural that we give, and sometimes we really don't want people to be telling us to stop giving. But I'm talking to you who keep on giving even when it brings you problems. You don't have anything for yourself in terms of emotional support, in terms of economic support, social support, and um, material support. But you find yourself giving all that to everyone else around you who needs it. So I'm asking you, who is going to fix you when you need fixing? Who is going to care for you when you need caring for? And who is going to fix you when you need fixing? The white knight syndrome can be very elusive in a way that it can make you have these conceptions or perceptions that if you give, if you fix, or if you help in this way or another, somehow people will come and fix you when you need it, which is not really true. The world has changed, people have moved on, and most people care much about what you give them rather than what they can give you. And if you give and expect back, then I'm sorry to tell you that you'll be very disappointed at the end of the day. So I've outlined 5 ways of getting yourself off this hook of um, exorbitant giving, and I hope you learn from those few concepts. And if you love uh, this topic of today, or maybe the content of the content, then you can consider subscribing and tell a friend to tell a friend to come and also help themselves get off this mentality of white knight syndrome. If you have any questions, you can leave them at the comment sections and I'll come back and answer appropriately. Bye bye for now.